The ballroom doors blew open on a wave of music and camera flashes, and every head turned toward the entrance of the Eco-Atlantic Grand Hall. For a heartbeat, Lagos seemed to hold its breath. There stood a young woman in a hand-dyed indigo gown that caught the chandelier light and scattered it like stars. The fabric hugged her figure, crossed at the shoulders, then fanned into layered pleats that moved like water with every step. Her skin glowed warm bronze. Her hair, natural, coiled and swept into a crowned updo, carried tiny gold combs that winked when she moved. She was not on the guest list to be admired. She was the maid. Darius Cole, the billionaire behind the night's charity gala, froze mid-speech. His voice, smooth a second ago, tripped on the teleprompter. He had invited her as a joke, to give the wealthy something to whisper about. He had meant to introduce her from the stage as a reminder that we create opportunities, then show a photo of her in her work uniform side by side with her in a borrowed dress, let the laughter do the rest. But the joke crumbled the moment she entered. The room fell silent, then tidal, gasps, murmurs, chairs shifting as people stood to see better. "Who is she?" someone asked. "She works in housekeeping," Zuri said under her breath. Zuri, Darius's fiancée, adjusted the diamond choker on her neck and tried to smile. "She's just the help." But the help was walking with a grace that made camera operators forget their cues. The MC faltered. The string quartet missed a note. A visiting American mogul, Clark Henderson, leaned forward to get a clearer look. "That dress," he whispered to a designer beside him, "that construction, look at the seams. That's couture work." Amara Okoye didn't look at Darius. She did not look at Zuri. She didn't even look at the bankers and movie stars who moved aside to make space for her. She kept her eyes on the stage's edge where the charity's logo glowed, Lagos Rising. The hall smelled of hibiscus and polished wood. Outside, the Atlantic thudded softly against the new city. Inside, all the expensive noise, the glasses, the laughter, turned humble against the thunder of her arrival. She reached the base of the stage. The indigo pleats fell around her like ripples on a lagoon. A hush followed. Darius, who had flown in guests from Atlanta and New York to impress them with his reach, could only watch as the attention he'd bought slid to the one person he'd expected to embarrass. Amara inclined her head, a small nod that somehow felt royal, then turned slightly so the cameras could catch the dress's spine-line cutout, a precise oval that revealed strength rather than skin. A woman near the front put her hand to her chest. The MC recovered and tried to push the show forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, as we..." He didn't finish. Applause broke out, first polite, then rolling, then rising into cheers. The socialites clapped because they couldn't help it. The staff clapped because they knew her. The journalists clapped because a story had walked into the room and dared them not to notice. Darius's jaw tightened. Zuri squeezed his arm, smile fixed, eyes sharp. "Tell them to cut the cameras," she whispered. Too late. The cameras were hungry and Amara's poise was feeding them. That was the peak. But like every peak, there had been a climb. Just a week earlier, Amara had woken before dawn in a single room in Surulere that smelled of soap and sewing oil. She had pinned a scrap of Ankara to the curtain to catch the sunrise and make it gold. Her mother's old Singer machine sat on a short table by the window, its belt mended with a strip of bicycle tire. Amara had named the machine Mama Kiki and spoke to it like a friend when thread tangled and needles snapped. For 2 years she had worked as a maid in Darius Cole's Lagos hotel, sending money home to her younger brother in Umuahia, saving what little remained in a jar hidden beneath a floorboard. Her victories were small but bright, convincing the kitchen to give leftover pastries to the drivers who slept in their cars, stitching a ripped hem in a guest's suit so cleanly that the man pressed $50 into her palm, learning the names of the night guards and asking about their children like it mattered, because it did. In the quiet hours between shifts, she sketched dresses on tissue paper. A shoulder fold like a wave, a waist pleat like a drumbeat, a back cutout like the full moon over Bar Beach. She dreamed of a future where her designs moved under lights brighter than the ones that flickered in her room. Darius Cole came to Lagos often because Lagos made him feel powerful. He was in his late 30s, tall, smooth, with a voice that could talk a board into signing away its conscience. He'd grown up between Houston and Port Harcourt, half African-American and half Nigerian, proud of both and comfortable in neither. He had made his first hundreds of millions in logistics apps and the next hundreds buying and flipping hotels that other people had failed to run. His Lagos property was a jewel, glass and steel and imported stone, full of people who knew how to say yes sir, and of course sir in just the right tone. The only person who didn't bend in the way he expected was Amara. The first time he saw her was not as a maid but as hands, a flash of fingers at the edge of a broken banquet table. A leg had snapped before an investor lunch. The team had panicked. Amara had slid in, twisted a scarf, wedged a wedge of wood, and kept the table from collapsing. Darius noticed. He liked useful people. He did not think about her again until a guest from Atlanta left a garment bag open and Amara, passing, paused with reverence at the silk inside. "You like that?" Darius had said, surprising her. He'd been in the hallway on the phone, voice low and busy. "It's custom. $10,000. Amara had smiled, and there had been more sadness than envy in it. "It is beautiful, sir," she said. "But it is not made with love." It was the oddest thing to say. It stuck to Darius like a burr. Later, when his PR team suggested they spice up the gala with a Cinderella moment, he remembered the way the maid had looked at the dress and a spark of mischief lit up. He told his staff to print her an invitation. "Front row," he said, laughing. "Make sure she knows it's black tie. Loan her something plain. We'll bring her on stage. The cameras will eat it up." The staff sent the invite. The seamstress on the hotel service floor offered Amara a satin dress that had been altered too many times to fit anyone. Amara thanked her, tried it on, and saw at once that it wasn't her path. She went home, pulled her savings jar from under the floorboard and counted. Not enough for a boutique gown, but enough for fabric. At the Balagan market, she found indigo that had been dyed by hand in a village where the vats were older than the city. She bought gold combs from a woman who told her, "Your hair is a crown. Don't hide it." She borrowed a pair of heels from a kind receptionist whose feet were just a size bigger and stuffed tissue into the toes. Nights became a rhythm. So unpick, so again. Mama Kiki hummed. Needles broke and were replaced. Patterns on tissue became fabric on form. When she finished, the dress did not say borrowed or pretend. It said, softly but firmly, made with love. All roads led to the night of the gala. The ceiling dripped light, champagne slid like laughter, and the rich discussed the poor like they were weather. Amara arrived alone in a kiki, stepping carefully to keep the hem from the wheels. At the check-in, the women scanning barcodes looked up and smiled without recognizing her. Good sign. She entered, and the room turned as if the stars had shifted. Now, at the foot of the stage, she met Darius's eyes for the first time that night. His smile was polite, corporate. It couldn't hide the flicker of surprise. Zuri stepped forward with gracious on her lips, a public face practiced in private mirrors. To everyone watching, it looked like goodwill. "Welcome," Zuri said and leaned in for a cheek kiss that fell an inch short. "Thank you," Amara replied. Her voice carried. It had steadied many things in its short life: frightened children, angry guests, her own racing heart. The MC launched into the charity numbers. Plates clinked. A camera swept. Then the hall lights dimmed, signaling the surprise moment. Darius's team cued a slideshow. The plan: a gentle tease, a few laughs, a pivot into generosity. But whatever control he had imagined was slipping like water. "Before we continue," the MC said, "we want to celebrate transformation. The spirit of Lagos rising." He gestured to Amara. She should have felt small. Instead, she felt tall, taller than the stage. She stepped up. The cameras adjusted. The screen behind her flickered with the charity logo. And then, on the far side of the room, a commotion sparked. Two security men whispered to a floor manager. The floor manager blanched and pointed. The security men altered course. The band stumbled over a note. Zuri's smile stiffened. Darius narrowed his eyes, calculating. The security team reached the foot of the stage, looked up at Amara, then at Darius, then back at the floor manager. One spoke into his sleeve mic. The other stepped up, his hand open, apologetic and firm. "Miss," he said, voice low but amplified by the hush, "we need to check your clutch. There's been a report of a missing diamond bracelet." Amara looked down at the small fabric clutch she had sewn from leftover indigo. She lifted it slowly, the room holding its breath with her. The cameras swung in. Somewhere near the back, a woman exclaimed. On the front row, Clark Henderson's brows drew tight, a storm in his gaze. Darius opened his mouth to intervene, or to let the scene play, no one could tell. Amara's fingers paused on the clasp. The room leaned closer. She opened the clutch. Amara's fingers lifted the indigo flap, slow and steady as if opening the door to a storm. Inside the clutch lay the little things that always traveled with her. A soft tape measure curled like a sleeping snake, a tin of pins, a thimble, a needle case, a stick of tailor's chalk, and a small sketchbook worn smooth at the corners. On top of them lay a bracelet, but not the one the room imagined. It was a slim brass bangle, etched with tiny insipidity symbols, the kind her mother had worn when she wanted strength. "It isn't diamonds," Someone breathed from the second row, a mix of relief and confusion. The security man cleared his throat. "We were told a diamond piece is missing, ma'am." He glanced at Darius, then at the floor manager, whose face had the strained calm of a person trying to keep a dam from breaking. Zuri stepped forward, voice syrup-sweet and microphone ready. "Let's not embarrass the young lady," she said. "We can handle this discreetly." Discreetly? Clark Henderson's voice cut through the hush like a clean blade. The American mogul stood from the front row, his wife rising with him, camera lights catching the silver in his hair. He pointed not at Amara's clutch but at the sketchbook. "That is a designer's notebook. I've seen 1,000. Give an inch of respect before you take a mile of reputation." The MC laughed too brightly. "A misunderstanding, perhaps. Meanwhile, our live auction." "Hold," Darius said. He didn't raise his voice but the sound carried. He was a man used to being obeyed. His eyes were on Amara, and for one fraction of a second, the room saw something that wasn't there a moment ago in his expression. Curiosity stripped of the mask of control. He had planned a playful jab, a tidy spectacle. He now stood in a different story. "Who reported the missing piece?" he asked. A woman in a white silk sheath lifted her hand. Lillian Adebayo's name traveled in whispers before her. Old money, old sharpness. "I placed my diamond tennis bracelet on my napkin while I checked my phone," she said, crisp and cool. "I turned and it was gone." She tilted her chin toward Amara with the slight, practiced movement of someone who presented offerings and indictments with the same hand. Security said to alert them immediately. "You are suggesting I took it," Amara said, not a question but an even line that laid truth beside presumption. "You were near the VIP tables when you came in," Lillian replied. "Closer than most would be for obvious reasons." Clark took a step toward the stage. "If we start pointing at the nearest target, we'll never find the real one." Zuri's smile didn't waver. "No one is pointing, Mr. Henderson. We are simply asking for a check. For everyone's peace of mind." Darius lifted a palm. "Let's do this cleanly. Check nearby areas first. Then, if necessary, we can review the cameras." He turned to Amara. "May we see the rest?" Amara held his gaze. She tipped the clutch and let its contents spill into her hand, pins, chalk, and tape catching the light. A murmur ran through the crowd. The security man nodded to his partner, who scanned the stage floor and the steps. "Nothing." He radioed the side team. "Sweep the front rows," he said. "Check under chairs, table skirts, the dais." The hall hummed back to its noise. Not full noise but something like it. Waiters resumed moving, though slower. The band found a tune they could repeat without thinking. The MC babbled about bidders while sneaking looks at the security team. Zuri's fingers fluttered near her throat, then settled on the diamond choker, as if to remind the cameras which jewels mattered. Darius watched everything and everyone. He had the look of a chess player whose opponent had unexpectedly touched the queen. Amara closed her clutch and moved it aside. The sketchbook now sat in full view. Clark Henderson's wife, Tasha, leaned to get a better angle. "Those lines," she whispered. "See how she maps tension and fall." She raised her voice slightly. "May I?" Tasha's tone was careful. She asked, not assumed. Amara nodded. Tasha climbed the first step in a simple navy dress and a smile that could steady boats. She opened the sketchbook. Inside there were quick strokes that suggested more than they drew. A shoulder drape like a river bend, a bias cut that caught light like secrets, a bodice that promised strength before it promised allure. Each sketch was labeled, tide, drumline, full moon. "You made your dress," Tasha said, not a question. "It shows." Amara felt heat rise behind her eyes and willed it down. "I made it," she said. "With love." Something softened in Darius's face. Then the floor manager returned with 2 security men and urgency in his walk. He whispered to Darius, too loud to be truly private. "Sir, the VIP lounge camera caught movement near Ms. Adebayo's table 3 minutes ago. A figure in a staff jacket bent by the chair." The word bent hung in the air. "Which staff?" Zuri asked, tone smooth but eyes alert. "We're pulling a clearer frame," the manager said. There is glare from the glass panel." He hesitated, then added, "The size and shape look like a woman." The room shifted again, curiosity curdling back into suspicion. People like their stories neat. Darius's jaw set. "Bring the frame to the side screen," he said. While text scrambled, the auctioneer pretended to sell a painting no one was really bidding for. Waiters pretended not to listen and listened harder. A boy hired to carry the mic stood very still, like a tree that wanted to become stone. Amara stood as if anchored. She did not plead. She did not search faces for someone to rescue her. She had done enough of both in her life. Tasha, still holding the sketchbook, stepped slightly in front of her, a small act of witness that meant more than volume. The screen flickered to life on the right wall. Grainy footage, a corner angle of the VIP lounge. People watched themselves from 10 minutes ago, laughing, sipping, pretending at ease. Then a shape entered frame, a woman in a dark staff jacket, head slightly bowed, pausing by a chair. She reached toward the seat, then pivoted away, swift, leaving. The image was too vague to name. The way she moved, quick, certain, could have been anyone under a suit and a wig. "That's her," Lillian said, not waiting for certainty. "Look at the size, the hair." She made a small wave toward Amara's updo, a gesture whose elegance could not hide its edge. "Freeze," Darius said. The tech froze the frame. The woman's face was a blur. The hair was a rounded puff. The jacket's shoulder seam had a tiny puckering, as if the wearer had pinned something beneath. Amara looked at the image and felt a hollow click of fear. There was something familiar, not the person but the jacket. The seam. The puckering. She had seen it that afternoon. Her mind returned to 3 hours earlier, to the service floor humming with gala prep. Zuri had appeared with a zipper problem, breath fragrant with a perfume like white flowers and ambition. "It's an emergency," she'd said. "Be a darling." She'd smiled at Amara the way a person smiles at a lever they intend to pull. Amara had guided Zuri to the mirror and stitched the tiny glitch near the seam. While she worked, Zuri had chatted like a person who wanted to be overheard. "One day I'll design a line," Zuri had said. "Zuri by Zuri. Bold, expensive, everywhere." She had laughed. "Don't worry. I'll send the help some coupons." When Amara finished, she had noticed a puckering at the shoulder where Zuri had pinned the jacket to fit snug over her dress. Now that same puckering glared back at her from the screen. "Security," Darius said. "Bring the staff who wore jackets tonight to the side hall. We will not turn this room into a court. We will handle it with dignity." Zuri exhaled loudly enough to be heard. "Finally," she murmured, touching Darius's arm in a way that cameras could translate as supportive. "Fetch them. Quickly." The security team moved. Guests resumed their half-conversations. The band found a softer song and leaned on it like a crutch. Clark and Tasha returned to their seats, eyes still on Amara. Tasha slipped the sketchbook back into Amara's clutch, as if returning a child to its bed. A waiter, young and nervous, approached the front row with a tray of puff-puff and mini samosas. He caught a table edge, stumbled, and the tray slid. A few pastries fell under the VIP table. He went to his knees, flustered, gathering them. "I'm sorry," he whispered to no one and everyone. "Leave it," Lillian said briskly. "Someone will handle it." The boy reached anyway, arms sliding under the crisp table skirt, fingers feeling for a warm dough ball in a cold world. His hand hit something hard. He frowned, then closed his fingers around a circle that did not feel like a plate or a glass stem. He pulled it out into the light. The hall inhaled at once. It was a diamond tennis bracelet, cold fire caught in a line. The boy froze, eyes wide, knuckles white around the prize he had never imagined touching. He looked up, terrified. "Where did you find that?" the floor manager asked, already moving. Under the table skirt," the boy stammered. He pointed not at Amara, not at a shadow. He pointed directly beneath Zuri's chair. 100 eyes turned to Zuri. For the first time that night, her smile failed to move. She laughed too quickly. "Under my chair? That's absurd. People bump tables. Things slide." The floor manager took the bracelet gently, holding it like a truth. He looked at Darius. Darius looked at Zuri. Something sharp and private passed between them, a history of whispers and bargains too many to count. "Ms. Adebayo," the manager said, respectful. "Please confirm if this is yours." Lillian stood, took the bracelet, scanned the catch, the hallmark. "This is mine," she said. "Thank you." The room stirred, the way a forest stirs when a wind changes. Relief for some, surprise for many, hunger for all. The easy story had just broken at the spine. Zuri adjusted her choker, eyes bright with a different kind of heat. "Anyone could have kicked it there," she said, voice taut. "We are not children." "No," Clark Henderson said quietly, "we are not." On stage, Amara stood so still the moment seemed to coalesce around her. Darius's gaze flicked from the bracelet to Zuri to the screen and then, finally, back to Amara, as if measuring the distance between the woman he had planned to mock and the woman standing, unbowed, at his event. A security officer, the one with the sleeve mic, touched his earpiece and frowned. "Sir," he said to the floor manager, then louder for Darius, We have a second camera angle from the mezzanine. It shows someone placing something under the VIP table 5 minutes ago. The crowd leaned forward again, pulled by the gravity of the next image, the next truth. Put it on the big screen, Darius said. The lights dipped. The video blinked to life. A bird's-eye view over crystal and flowers, an angle no one in the hall could have seen without wings. A figure slipped into frame, paused by the table, bent. And the room gasped because from above the face was suddenly clear, the updo familiar, the silhouette unmistakable. It looked like Amara. The room fell deathly silent. Forks stopped mid-air, glasses froze halfway to lips, and every murmur died in the throat. All eyes turned toward the massive LED screen where the footage still played on loop. A figure in a staff jacket, with the same rounded updo as Amara's, slipping something beneath Zuri's chair. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. Zuri let out a theatrical gasp, one hand pressed dramatically to her chest. "Oh my God, that's her. That's Amara," she declared, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "Darius, you see it too, don't you?" The cameras turned toward Amara. Light hit her like a verdict. She stood still, her jaw tight but her eyes calm. Too calm for someone being accused in front of a hall full of billionaires, celebrities and reporters. Darius looked from the screen to her, his face unreadable. 4 years he'd negotiated contracts worth more than most nations' annual budgets. But this woman's silence disarmed him more than any boardroom battle ever had. "Miss Okoye," the floor manager said softly, stepping closer, "would you like to explain this footage?" Amara's voice came out steady, gentle, but filled with weight. "I cannot explain a video I did not take part in. But I can tell you this, someone wanted me humiliated tonight." The words echoed. The tension in the room thickened like Legos heat before a thunderstorm. Zuri gave a sharp, incredulous laugh. "Humiliated? You were the one sneaking around VIP tables. Maybe you planned to sell that bracelet to pay your rent." A few guests gasped at her cruelty. Even Lillian Adebayo frowned. Scandal was fun to watch, but open contempt toward the poor left a bitter aftertaste. Amara didn't flinch. "Mrs. Cole, she said slowly, "you remember the jacket you wore earlier this evening? The one I helped you stitch." Zuri blinked. "What?" "The seam on your shoulder," Amara continued. "It puckered when you pinned it too tight. I see the same puckering on the jacket in that video. Look closely." The technician paused the video and zoomed in. Indeed, on the upper left shoulder of the staff jacket, there it was, the same tiny uneven fold. The exact one Amara had fixed hours earlier. The audience rippled with murmurs. Someone whispered, "That's impossible," another muttered, "So the fiancé wore a staff jacket?" Zuri's face drained of color. She tried to speak but her words stumbled. "You're lying. You're all, you can't prove that's mine." Darius's voice dropped low, cold as an iron gate. "Zuri." His fiancée stiffened. "Darius, you're not seriously listening to this girl?" "Step into the back room," he said. It wasn't a request. It was the same tone he used to end deals, crush rumors, or silence employees. Zuri froze, then forced a smile and tossed her hair. "Of course," she said lightly. "Anything to clear this up." Security escorted Zuri out toward the side hall. The cameras turned away politely, but the entire hall buzzed with invisible electricity. People whispered as they sipped their champagne. The event that was meant to boost Darius Cole's image was now unraveling live before the city's eyes. Darius turned back to Amara. "You said someone wanted you humiliated. Why?" Amara looked at him directly. "Because power doesn't like to be reminded that it once needed help from those it steps on." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "Earlier this week," she said quietly, "Zuri brought her dress to the service floor. The zipper tore and she begged me to fix it before tonight. She said she didn't want you to know. I helped her. I've helped her many times, fixing, adjusting, sewing while she spoke of how maids are useful when quiet. Maybe she thought tonight would be my punishment for not staying quiet enough." Her words sank into the room like heavy stones into water. Clark Henderson stood up again, his voice firm. "Mr. Cole, I've thrown galas for 20 years. And I've seen people accused for less than this young lady's grace. But I've also seen men ruined for ignoring the truth standing right before them. That seam detail she pointed out, that's not coincidence." Darius rubbed his chin, torn between humiliation and awakening. The image of Amara walking into the ballroom moments ago, radiant, fearless, and magnetic, replayed in his mind like a heartbeat he couldn't escape. Just then, the floor manager hurried back from the side corridor, whispering urgently to Darius. The billionaire's expression changed from frustration to disbelief. Are you certain? He asked. The man nodded gravely. Darius turned to the guests. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for this chaos. It appears the situation has shifted. He gestured toward the hallway. 2 security officers re-entered, leading Zuri between them. Her eyes were red, her lip trembling, the confident facade crumbling. One of the guards held up a small jewelry pouch. This was found inside Ms. Zuri's clutch bag, the guard said. It contains another diamond bracelet and an earring belonging to Mrs. Adebayo. Gasps exploded across the ballroom. The socialites craned their necks, phones discreetly angled. Zuri broke down. It's not what it looks like. I meant to give them back, But no one believed her. The same people who once envied her now whispered about her greed. Amara simply closed her eyes, her expression unreadable, not triumph, not smugness, but quiet sorrow. Darius spoke softly. Zuri, do you realize what you've done? You framed someone innocent, in my event, on live broadcast. I didn't mean to, she cried. I just wanted her gone. She was stealing attention that should have been mine. The honesty of her breakdown stunned the hall. The cameras caught every word. Darius looked down, exhaling slowly. Get her out of here. Security led Zuri away. The crowd erupted in murmurs, phones buzzing as social media posts began spreading instantly. Billionaire's fiancé exposed for theft during gala. When the doors closed behind her, Darius turned back to the guests. Please, let's continue the evening with the dignity it deserves. But it was Amara who saved the moment. She stepped toward the mic, her calm voice cutting through the awkward hush. I believe this gala was meant to raise funds for children who have no clothes, no shoes, no dreams. Let's not waste the night on gossip. Let's give them our focus. The hall burst into applause. Real applause, not forced, not polite. Genuine respect. Clark Henderson walked up to the stage, shook her hand and said loudly, Miss Okoye, if you ever want a future in design, call me. My card is yours. The crowd cheered again. Amara's eyes glistened as she nodded. Darius stood beside her, for once unsure of his own words. The same woman he had intended to embarrass now stood like a queen before his empire, and his empire was clapping for her. As the music swelled again, Darius leaned closer and said quietly, You've turned my joke into the most humbling night of my life. Amara didn't look at him. Maybe it's not too late to start seeing people as people, Mr. Cole. Then she walked off the stage. The night ended with record donations not because of the billionaire's speech, but because of the maid who refused to bow to shame. Yet outside the glittering hall, as Amara stepped into the cool Lagos night, headlights flashed across her face, and a black luxury car rolled to a stop in front of her. The tinted window lowered slowly. Inside sat Darius Cole. Get in, he said quietly. We need to talk. And that's where the real story began. Comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so others can learn from Amara's courage. The night breeze from the Atlantic swept softly through the hotel's driveway, carrying with it the faint sounds of Lagos, honking, laughter, music from distant nightclubs. The grand event was behind her now, but the shock of it lingered in the air like smoke after fireworks. Amara stood on the marble steps, still clutching her handmade indigo purse. Her heart thudded beneath her ribs, not from fear anymore but from something else. Uncertainty, exhaustion, disbelief. She had walked into that hall prepared for humiliation and left as the woman the whole city was talking about. Now the man who planned that humiliation sat before her in a sleek black Rolls-Royce, door open, expression unreadable. Get in, Darius repeated, his voice calm but firm, almost gentle. Amara hesitated. Every instinct in her screamed caution. Sir, she said carefully, I don't think. I owe you an apology, he interrupted. And explanations don't belong in front of a crowd. Please. His tone softened on the last word. Against her better judgment, Amara stepped forward, her heels clicking lightly against the polished stone. The chauffeur opened the back door fully. She slid in, the leather cool against her skin. The door shut with a soft thud that sounded more final than any applause she had heard that night. Inside the car, the scent of fine cologne mingled with silence. For a long moment, neither spoke. The city lights outside streaked by like passing thoughts. Finally, Darius exhaled. I invited you to that gala because I thought it would be amusing. A social experiment, really? He looked out the window, jaw tight. I wanted to see how someone from nothing would react among people who have everything. Amara didn't speak. He went on, voice low, guilt threading through it. But when you walked in, the room changed. You didn't belong there, at least that's what I thought, but somehow, it felt like everyone else didn't belong beside you. She turned to face him. You invited me to be mocked, she said quietly. And yet you sound surprised that it backfired. He looked at her then, eyes dark but honest. I'm surprised. Because what I saw on that stage wasn't a maid. It was power, dignity, beauty. You silenced a room full of people who measure others by their bank accounts. Amara gave a small, tired smile. Maybe it's time they learn that money can't buy character, Mr. Cole. He chuckled softly, rubbing a hand over his face. Darius, call me Darius, please. She didn't respond. Her eyes drifted to the passing lights. You think I wanted their approval tonight? She said. No. I just wanted to show that being poor doesn't mean being less. He studied her for a long moment. You did more than that. You exposed every shallow person in that room, including me. The silence that followed was different now, softer, heavier, almost personal. Darius finally spoke again. What happens next for you, Amara? Because whether you like it or not, by tomorrow morning your face will be on every social media feed in Nigeria. The maid who outshone millionaires. I'll go to work, she said simply. My shift starts at 6. He blinked, incredulous. You're still going back to clean rooms after tonight? I need the money, she said, unbothered. My brother's school fees are due next week. Fame doesn't pay bills. Her composure both humbled and intrigued him. You're different, he murmured. You don't flinch, you don't beg, and you don't pretend. Amara turned her head to look at him fully. Begging never built anything. And pretending is for people afraid of who they are. Darius leaned back, half smiling. You remind me of someone. My mother. She came from nothing too, sold oranges by the roadside until she could buy a kiosk. She died before I made my first million. For the first time his voice faltered. Amara saw past the billionaire's armor and caught a glimpse of the boy underneath, the one who once watched his mother struggle, perhaps promising himself he'd never be poor again. She would have been proud of you, Amara said softly. Maybe, Darius whispered. Or maybe she'd hate what I've become. The car slowed to a stop at a quiet stretch overlooking the lagoon. The night shimmered with reflections of city lights dancing on the water. I want to make it right, he said suddenly. The way I treated you, tonight in the past, it was wrong. Tell me how I can fix it. Amara smiled faintly. You can't fix everything with money, Darius. He looked at her, earnest. Then tell me how. Name anything, anything. Her gaze turned toward the water. Help someone who needs it, not because it looks good on your profile, but because it's right. Darius nodded slowly. Then we'll start with you. She frowned. What do you mean? He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small black folder. Inside it was a contract letter with his company's logo embossed in gold. I spoke to my board earlier, he said. Clark Henderson wants to invest in a new fashion line under my brand, Rising Threads. And he specifically requested you to be the creative head. You'll design. We'll fund. You'll earn shares. You'll have everything you need. Amara stared at him, her mind spinning. This is absurd. I'm a maid, not a designer. He smiled faintly. You were a maid this morning. But tonight the world saw who you really are. She hesitated, overwhelmed. You're serious? I am, he said simply. This isn't charity. It's recognition. Tears welled in her eyes, unbidden. She quickly blinked them away. Why are you doing this? Because, he said quietly, for the first time in a long time, I want to do something that feels human. The car fell into silence again. Only the sound of water lapping against the shore filled the air. After a long pause, Amara said softly, If I accept this, I'll do it my way. No shortcuts. No fake headlines. I'll earn it. He nodded. I wouldn't expect anything less. She extended her hand. He took it. Her grip was firm, her palm warm. For a moment, neither wanted to let go. But just as she pulled her hand back, something caught her attention. A silver flash at the edge of the lagoon, faint but deliberate. The camera lens. Darius saw it too. His jaw tightened. Someone's following us. Before he could react, a voice shouted from a distance. Mr. Cole, is it true you replaced your fiancée with your maid? Flashlights burst from the dark. Reporters. Cameras. Dozens of them, swarming from nowhere like locusts. Darius cursed under his breath. Get down? The car's lights flared as the chauffeur started the engine, but it was too late. Paparazzi surrounded them, shouting questions. Did she steal your heart after stealing your spotlight? Is the billionaire dating the maid? Miss, were you part of the setup? Amara froze as flashes blinded her. Darius reached out, pulling her back from the window. "Don't say a word," he said firmly. The car sped away, tires screeching against the marble. The reporters gave chase, shouting, cameras still snapping. In the chaos, Amara's heart pounded, not from fear but from realization. She was no longer invisible. The whole world was watching now. But she also knew something deeper. The higher she rose, the more people would try to drag her down. And somewhere behind those flashing cameras, someone else was watching. Someone who had just as much to lose if Amara's name kept climbing. By dawn, Lagos was awake, and so was the scandal. Screens flickered in traffic jams, barbershops, and cafes. Headlines blared from phones and televisions alike. The Billionaire and the Maid, love or lies? Darius Cole's gala disaster, from humiliation to heartbeat. Is Amara Okoye Nigeria's new Cinderella? Hashtags exploded across social media. Hashtag Billionaire and the Maid, hashtag Cinderella at Eco, hashtag Zuri exposed. Even the morning radio hosts couldn't resist. "Omo, that girl fine no be small," one said. "Na poor girl way carry herself like queen. Make Darius no go fall oh." "Fall? Brothers, he done already fall finish," his partner replied, laughter echoing through the airwaves. Meanwhile, inside Darius Cole's penthouse suite overlooking Victoria Island, the man himself sat at his glass dining table, phone buzzing every few seconds. His PR manager, Chuka, a short, bespectacled man with the anxiety of 3 people, paced the floor juggling calls. "Sir, it's everywhere," he said, voice cracking. "Every news blog, every influencer. Some are saying it was a publicity stunt. Others are calling her a gold digger. We need a statement." Darius massaged his temples. "Not yet. Not yet? Sir, if we don't control the story controls us." "She's not the enemy, Chuka," Darius said firmly. "Don't spin it against her." Chuka blinked. "Sir, are you protecting her?" Darius looked away, out the window where the morning sun hit the ocean in streaks of gold. "Maybe I'm protecting myself," he said quietly. "For once." Across the city, in a modest Surulere apartment, Amara was living through the same whirlwind, but with far fewer bodyguards. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, co-workers, even strangers messaged her. Some praised her. Some mocked her. And some wanted to use her. "Amara, you're trending. People say you'll soon marry him," her friend Ngozi squealed over the phone. "Marry who?" Amara said dryly, brushing her natural curls in front of a cracked mirror. "Ngozi, beg, stop. I'm just trying to breathe." "Breathe? You better breathe rich air, my friend. This is your time, oh. Make you no dull yourself." Amara laughed softly, shaking her head. "If attention could pay rent, maybe I'd smile." Just then her phone vibrated again, an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. "Hello? Miss Okoye?" a calm male voice said. "This is Chuka, Mr. Darius Cole's public relations manager. Mr. Cole would like to meet with you this afternoon privately to discuss next steps." Amara frowned. "Next steps?" "Yes, ma'am. The media is spinning wild stories. He'd prefer to control the narrative, and he believes you deserve to be part of that conversation." Amara paused. "Tell him I'll think about it." "Please, ma'am. He specifically said it's about your future. And about the design project you discussed last night." Her pulse quickened. The Rising Threads project. She hadn't stopped thinking about it since he'd offered. "All right," she said finally. "Where?" "Cole Tower. 2 p.m. I'll send a car." By mid-afternoon, Amara stepped into Cole Tower, Lagos's tallest mirror of ambition. The lobby alone could make a poor person feel invisible. Marble floors. Gold accents. Glass elevators reflecting every insecurity. She caught her reflection in the polished wall. Indigo dress. Simple flats. No makeup, just clean confidence. She inhaled deeply. "You belong here too," she told herself. The receptionist smiled politely. "Miss Amara Okoye? Mr. Cole is expecting you. Top floor." When the elevator doors opened, Darius was standing by the panoramic window, looking out over the Atlantic. He turned as she entered, his face softened by something close to remorse. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "I wasn't sure I should," she replied evenly. He gestured toward the table. "Please sit." They sat across from each other. Between them a folder, neat, black, embossed in gold. Rising Threads project proposal. "I want to make this official," he said. "Not as a favor but as a partnership. You design. I fund. You get 40% of the shares." She blinked. 40? Clark Henderson insisted. Darius said. He said if I gave you less he'd walk out. He believes in your talent. Amara's lips parted, speechless. That's more than fair. You've earned it, he said quietly. And you deserve better than how I treated you. She nodded, hesitant. Thank you. But you know this will cause more rumors. He gave a half smile. Let them talk. People always talk. For a moment, silence stretched between them again, charged, not awkward. Darius studied her face, the calm strength in her eyes. You're not like anyone I've met, Amara. She met his gaze. That's because you don't usually look close enough. He chuckled softly, the tension easing. You might be right. Then, just as she reached for the folder, the office door burst open. Chuka rushed in, breathless. Sir, you need to see this, now. He held up a tablet showing a news clip. Zuri's face filled the screen, eyes red, lips trembling, giving an interview to CityBuzz TV. I was manipulated, she sobbed. Darius and that maid used me. It was all a publicity stunt to promote his new fashion company. He made me wear that jacket and told me to hide the bracelet so he could expose me later. He planned everything. The reporter's voice cut in. So you're saying the theft was fake? Yes. Zuri cried. It was all staged to make Amara look like a hero. The clip ended. Chuka swallowed hard. Sir, the story's spreading fast. Reporters are calling. Investors want answers. Some are saying the charity gala was a scam. Darius's jaw clenched. She's lying. Amara stood slowly, her heart racing. But the public doesn't know that. He looked at her, frustration shadowing his face. Zuri will do anything to destroy me, and now she's dragging you down too. Amara stepped closer. Then we fight it. Not with money. With truth. How? He asked, weary. Let me speak, she said simply. On camera. Alone. My story my way. Darius blinked. You do that? Yes, she said. Because silence lets lies grow. Chuka's eyes widened. Sir, if she does this right, it could flip the narrative overnight. Darius hesitated. You don't owe me this, Amara? She smiled faintly. Maybe not. But I owe it to myself. An hour later, a camera light flicked on inside the tower's small press room. Amara sat on a stool before a plain white background. No glamour, no stylist, no makeup. Just her voice, steady and real. My name is Amara Okoye, she began. I'm not a socialite. I'm not a celebrity. I'm a maid who sews, saves, and dreams. What happened at that gala wasn't a publicity stunt. It was an accident that turned into truth. I was invited to be mocked, but I walked in with dignity. And when lies came for me, truth protected me. She paused, eyes glimmering. If the world thinks kindness and honesty are newsworthy, then maybe that says more about the world than it does about me. The clip was uploaded within minutes. By evening it had over 3 million views. The comments were filled with hearts, applause emojis, and stories from ordinary people who saw themselves in her struggle. She speaks like us. I'm crying, this woman's strength is powerful. Protect Amara at all costs. By nightfall, #AmaraSpeaks was trending worldwide. Darius watched the clip from his penthouse balcony, a quiet smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. She hadn't just defended him, she'd redeemed him. But while social media praised her, in a dark room somewhere downtown, Zuri slammed her phone against the wall. Her eyes were wild, her pride shattered. She's not done yet, she hissed to herself. If the world wants a show, I'll give them one. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her gallery and opened a hidden video, grainy but clear enough to ruin everything. In it, Darius could be seen handing an envelope to a man in a hotel kitchen weeks earlier, the same kitchen where Amara worked. Zuri smirked. Let's see what happens when they think the maid was never innocent after all. By the next morning, the internet had turned venomous again. The same people who had called Amara a queen were now calling her a fraud. On Twitter, someone posted the new clip, grainy, shaky but damning. It showed Darius in a hotel kitchen, handing a brown envelope to a man who looked like a manager. The caption beneath it read, "Here's the billionaire bribing staff weeks before the gala. The maid was never innocent. #fake Cinderella #Amara lies." Within hours, millions had seen it. The comment sections turned dark. So she was acting all along? Typical. Always playing the victim. That speech was a scam. Blogs ran wild headlines. Was Amara Cole's puppet all along? Secret deal exposed. The truth behind #AmaraSpeaks. By noon, Amara's phone was buzzing non-stop again, only this time with hate messages. She shut it off, her heart pounding. Her brother, Keen, called from the village. His voice trembled through the static. Auntie, are you okay? People here are saying bad things. I'm fine, Keen, she said softly, though her throat ached. Don't listen to them, okay? Did you really do what they're saying? No, my dear. I didn't. He was quiet for a moment. Then shyly, I know. You're too good for that. Amara smiled faintly, even as tears slid down her cheeks. I'll call you later, okay? Go to school. When the line ended, she buried her face in her hands. The world she had finally begun to build was cracking beneath her feet again. At Cole Tower, the atmosphere was chaos. Chuka barged into Darius's office, his tie loose, sweat on his brow. Sir, the investors are panicking. Clark Henderson just called. He's freezing funding for Rising Threads until this is cleared up. Darius's face was a storm. Find the original footage. I want that entire recording, angles, timestamps, metadata, everything. Chuka hesitated. Sir, if this video is real, it'll? It's not, Darius snapped. That envelope was for a staff bonus program. Zuri's twisting it. Chuka sighed. You know the public won't wait for facts. Darius ran a hand over his jaw. Then we'll give them a reason to listen. By afternoon, he arrived at Amara's small apartment building in Surulere. Children played football in the narrow street, women sold puff-puff under umbrellas, and an old man strummed a guitar in the shade. Amara opened her door after 3 knocks, surprised. Her eyes were tired, her voice faint. You shouldn't be here. The press is everywhere. I don't care, he said. I had to see you. She stepped aside reluctantly. Come in. The room was small but neat, folded fabric stacked by the window, her mother's old sewing machine gleaming like a relic. Darius looked around quietly. You made all these? He asked. Every stitch, she said. He nodded slowly. You've built more with this machine than I did with $1 million. She didn't smile. You saw the video? He nodded. I did. And? It's fake. Zuri's desperate. Amara folded her arms. The internet doesn't care about truth, Darius. They just want drama. Yesterday I was a saint, today I'm a scam. He stepped closer. Then let me fix this. You can't fix everything, she said. You tried to fix me once, with pity. Look where that led. He hesitated. This isn't pity. It's partnership. She met his eyes, searching for sincerity. Why are you really here? He sighed. Because I care. And because you don't deserve this. Before she could respond, a knock thundered on the door. Miss Okoye? A voice called sharply. Open up. Lagos Chronicle. We just need a comment. Amara's face paled. More voices followed, camera clicks, flashes through the window curtains. They found you, Darius muttered. We have to go. I can't leave my home, she said. He grabbed her hand. If you stay, they'll tear you apart. Seconds later, he ushered her out through the back alley, where his driver was already waiting. The car peeled away as a crowd formed outside her door. Inside the car, Amara trembled quietly. I never wanted this. I just wanted peace. I know, Darius said softly. But peace rarely follows truth. She turned to him, voice breaking. People believe what they want. I don't have your money, your lawyers. How do I fight lies this big? He stared ahead, his jaw set. By showing them who you are. How? Come with me to the company. There's something you need to see. Cole Tower was eerily quiet when they arrived. The staff looked up as Amara entered, whispering. Some smiled in sympathy, others avoided eye contact, afraid to be seen choosing sides. Darius led her to the security room, where a young technician sat before a wall of monitors. Show her, Darius said. The technician played 2 videos side by side. On the left, Zuri's leaked clip. On the right, the original security footage from the same night. The timestamps didn't match. The envelope scene had been spliced in from a different date, weeks earlier. And in the real footage, the man receiving it wasn't the hotel manager at all, it was a staff welfare officer. She edited it, the technician said. It's a deep fake. Low quality but convincing enough for social media. Amara stared at the screen, speechless. She went that far. Darius nodded grimly. She wants revenge. And she's getting help. Help? Someone's funding her. The level of access she has, these files were stolen from my system. Amara frowned. But why? Isn't it enough she lost her position? Darius's gaze hardened. Zuri doesn't lose gracefully. And there are men in business who'd love to see me fall. She's their perfect weapon. A beat of silence passed. What do we do now? Amara asked. Darius straightened. We fight smart. No more reacting, we act. How? Tomorrow, he said, we call a press conference. You'll be there beside me. We'll show the evidence, clear your name, and end this circus. Amara hesitated. Standing beside you again will make the rumors worse. Then let them talk, he said. This time they'll talk about the truth. She exhaled slowly. All right. But if this backfires, Darius, my life will never recover. He nodded. Neither will mine. That night, alone in her new hotel room, arranged for her safety, Amara couldn't sleep. She sat by the window watching lightning crawl across the sky. Lagos glimmered below like a restless beast. She whispered softly to herself, Mama, if you can hear me, I need your strength now more than ever. Her mother's bracelet gleamed faintly on her wrist, the same brass bangle from the gala. Just then her phone buzzed with a private message from an unknown number. She hesitated, then opened it. It was a video file. The thumbnail showed Darius, sitting with Zuri in a candlelit restaurant, days before the gala. The caption read, Do you still think he's innocent? Amara's heart skipped a beat. She pressed play. And what she saw next made her blood run cold. Darius and Zuri were laughing, clinking glasses. Then Zuri leaned close and whispered, You're sure she'll come, right? The maid. Darius smiled and replied, Of course. Everyone loves a good joke. Amara froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Her fingers trembled as she paused the clip. It was him. His voice. His smile. The plan. The betrayal that started everything. And though the clip was old, it was real. Amara sat frozen in her chair, the phone trembling in her hand as the dim hotel lamp flickered against her face. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder, as the words from the video replayed in her head like a cruel echo. You're sure she'll come, right? The maid. Of course. Everyone loves a good joke. Her chest tightened. She could almost hear her heart breaking, not loudly but in quiet cracks that hurt worse than any scream. The man who had defended her, who had promised to make things right, was the same man who had lit the fire in the first place. Her first instinct was denial. Maybe it was edited. Maybe it's fake, just like Zuri's other clip. But no, the laugh was real. The smile was real. The look in his eyes wasn't a stranger's. It was Darius Cole. Tears blurred her vision. She threw the phone onto the bed and pressed her palms against her face. Why? She whispered to the empty room. Why me? Her mind raced back through every moment. His apology, his gentleness, his promise to give her a new life. It all began with his joke. The knock on the door startled her. Miss Okoye? Came a familiar voice, Darius's voice. It's me. Her stomach twisted. She didn't answer. He knocked again, firmer this time. Amara, please. It's important. She swallowed hard, wiped her face, and opened the door just enough to see him standing there, dressed down in a white shirt, no tie, his expression weary but searching. What do you want? She asked flatly. We need to go over the press statement for tomorrow, he said. It has to be clear and... Don't. Her voice cracked like a whip. He frowned. Don't what? Don't pretend, she said, stepping aside so the light from the lamp fell across her face. Her eyes were red but steady. I know everything now. He froze. What are you talking about? She picked up her phone and tossed it toward him. Play it. He stared at the screen as the video rolled, his laughter, Zuri's voice, his words. His expression shifted from confusion to recognition, then to horror. Amara. Save it. She crossed her arms tightly. Tell me this isn't real. Tell me this isn't your voice, your plan, your idea of a joke. Listen, he began, stepping forward. That video was from weeks before the gala. Yes, I said those words, but it wasn't what it looked like. It's exactly what it looked like, she shouted, tears spilling freely now. You planned to humiliate me. You invited me there to be mocked in front of your rich friends like a circus act. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, guilt cutting through him like glass. You're right, he said finally. I did. The words stabbed her deeper than she expected. I was arrogant, he continued. I thought it would be funny, a harmless social stunt. But when I saw you walk in that night, everything changed. You were breathtaking, Amara. You owned that room. You made me ashamed of myself. Don't romanticize cruelty, she said bitterly. You don't get to rewrite what you did because you feel guilty now. He stepped closer, but she backed away. I didn't mean for it to go that far, he said. I swear I didn't know Zuri would. She laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You didn't know? You set the stage, Darius. She just acted the script. He winced. I was wrong. Completely wrong. But everything after that night, the apology, the offer, the project, it's real. I meant every word. Amara shook her head. It all started with a lie. How am I supposed to trust you now? Because I'm standing here telling you the truth, he said quietly. No cameras, no PR, no spin, just me. Too late, she whispered. The truth should have come before the humiliation, not after. Silence fell. The air between them was thick with pain and memories neither could erase. Darius's voice dropped low. If you want to walk away, I'll understand. But please don't let Zuri's lies destroy what you've built. You're bigger than all of this. Amara's jaw tightened. You're right, I am. And I won't let her destroy me. But I won't let you use me to clean your conscience either. She walked past him toward the door. Where are you going? He asked, alarmed. To speak the truth, this time my way? Amara, wait. But she was already gone. The next morning, Cole Tower was surrounded by reporters. The press conference that was supposed to save Darius's reputation had now turned into a battlefield. Cameras flashed. Microphones were thrust forward. Darius sat behind the podium, face composed but tense. Chuka whispered, Sir, she hasn't arrived. Should we postpone? No, Darius said quietly. She'll come. But even as he said it, a part of him wasn't sure. The hall buzzed with tension. The journalists murmured, their voices sharp and hungry. Then the doors opened. Amara stepped in. The crowd erupted in camera clicks and whispers. She wore a simple cream dress, her natural hair wrapped neatly in a bun. No jewelry, no makeup, just dignity. Darius rose instinctively. Amara? She didn't look at him. She went straight to the podium. The room fell silent. I know you're all here for answers, she began. So here's the truth, not the edited clips, not the rumors, but the truth from me. She glanced at Darius briefly, then back at the cameras. Yes, I was invited to the gala as a joke. Yes, I was meant to be humiliated. And yes, the person who invited me was Darius Cole himself. A wave of murmurs filled the hall. Darius's face went pale. Amara raised her hand, steady. But people can change. That night changed him and me. I saw the power of dignity, and he saw the ugliness of pride. We both learned something painful but necessary. She turned toward him now. He made a mistake. I made one too, trusting too easily. But this isn't just about us. It's about every person who's ever been underestimated, every worker who's ever been laughed at by the rich. My story isn't a fairy tale. It's a warning that dignity can't be bought and respect must be earned. The room was dead quiet. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras zoomed in. Amara took a breath, voice firm but trembling with emotion. I don't want sympathy. I don't want revenge. I just want peace. So after today I'll be walking away, from the company, from the spotlight, from all of it. She stepped down from the podium and began to walk toward the exit. Darius stood stunned. Amara, don't do this. She paused by the door, turned slightly and said softly, You wanted a joke, Darius. But the only joke is how power makes people forget their humanity. I hope you never forget mine again. And with that she walked out. The hall erupted in noise, cameras flashing, voices shouting, 100 questions shouted at once. But Darius didn't hear any of it. He just stood there watching her leave, realizing that for the first time in his life, all his wealth couldn't buy the one thing he truly wanted, forgiveness. Outside, Amara stepped into the sunlight. For the first time in months she felt light. Free. But as she walked away from the crowd, a black SUV pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing Clark Henderson. Miss Okoye, he said with a smile. You handled that beautifully. If you're still willing, I'd like to back your designs independently. No Darius, no scandal. Just you. Amara blinked. Me? Yes. People believe in you now. Don't waste that. Let's make rising threads truly rise, under your name. For a long moment she said nothing. Then slowly she smiled. All right. Let's do it. Clark extended his hand. She took it. In that handshake, the power shifted completely, from the billionaire who mocked her to the woman who owned her story. That night, Darius sat alone in his penthouse, watching her press speech replay on television. The crowd's applause echoed faintly from the screen. He smiled sadly, whispered to himself, You were right, Amara. Maybe this was never about love. Maybe it was about learning what it means to be human again. He closed his eyes as the city lights flickered like forgiveness he would never receive. The city moved on, but the story of the billionaire and the maid refused to fade. It was everywhere. From morning talk shows to radio call-ins, from YouTube breakdowns to gossip at roadside stalls. Everyone had an opinion. But for Amara, silence had become her only luxury. 2 months after the press conference, she sat at a wide cutting table inside a bright studio on the island. Rolls of Ankara silk and indigo linen surrounded her like a field of dreams. The wall bore the new name in bold gold letters. Amara Okoye, Rising Threads. Clark Henderson had kept his promise. He'd registered the brand under her ownership, hired local tailors, and given her full creative control. The company was small but growing fast, and each dress they made carried her signature blend of humility and strength. She had found peace in work again, steady, quiet, real. A knock came at her door. "Come in," she said, pinning a hem. Ngozi burst in, grinning wide. "Babe, you won't believe it. Your design, Full Moon, just got featured in Vogue Africa. They called it, a symbol of grace born from struggle." Amara froze, then laughed softly, a sound filled with disbelief and gratitude. "Vogue Africa? Yes, oh. You're international now. See." Ngozi thrust the magazine open. There she was, Amara, standing tall in a blue gown, the same shade she wore at the gala. The photo caption read, "From Maid to Designer, Amara Okoye stitches hope into every seam." She exhaled deeply. "Mama," she whispered, looking at the ceiling, "we made it." Ngozi, ever dramatic, fanned herself. "So when are you throwing a party? Lagos needs to celebrate you." Amara smiled but shook her head. "Let's finish the orders first. Work before celebration." Ngozi groaned. "Ah, you and your discipline." Before Amara could reply, her assistant entered with an envelope. "Ma, this just came for you. Delivered by hand." Amara frowned. "From who?" "No name," the girl said. Amara opened it slowly. Inside was a single handwritten letter and a small brass key. The handwriting was unmistakable, Darius Cole's. Her hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the note. "Amara, I promised I wouldn't disturb your peace, but there are some debts that silence can't repay. This key belongs to my late mother's boutique in Port Harcourt, the first place she ever dreamed of owning. I'm donating it to you and your team. Turn it into a training center for young women who can't afford design school. Let it be something beautiful born from my mistakes. You once told me to help someone not because it looked good but because it was right. This is me trying. Darius." Amara read it twice, her heart caught between ache and forgiveness. Ngozi leaned over her shoulder. "Wait, this Darius? The same one?" "Yes," Amara said softly. "The same one." Ngozi crossed her arms. "After all he did, you'll just take his gift like that?" Amara stared at the letter, thoughtful. "Forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the past. It means freeing yourself from it." She turned the brass key in her hand. "If this can help other women rise, then maybe that's how I forgive him." Later that evening, Amara stood on her balcony overlooking the city. The air smelled of rain and jasmine. She wore one of her new designs, simple, elegant, confident. The lights of Lagos shimmered below like constellations, and somewhere out there she imagined Darius watching the same skyline. And indeed he was. Across town, in his now quiet penthouse, Darius stood by the window, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips as he scrolled through the article on his tablet. Amara Okoye, the designer who stitched her destiny. He set the device aside and whispered, "Good for you, Amara." He walked to a cabinet and pulled out a small frame, an old photo from the gala night, one the paparazzi had captured unknowingly. Amara in her indigo gown, standing tall beneath the chandelier, the crowd's eyes on her. He placed the photo on his desk and poured a glass of water, raising it like a toast. "To the woman who taught me humanity." A week later, in Port Harcourt, a modest building opened under the name the Rising Threads Training Center for Women. Young girls lined the street, holding flowers and laughter. Amara stood before them, ribbon in hand. Cameras flashed. But this time the spotlight didn't frighten her, it felt like sunlight. As she cut the ribbon, she smiled at the cheering crowd. "This isn't just for me," she said into the microphone. "It's for every woman who's been told she's not enough. For every dream that began in silence. May we all rise one stitch at a time." Applause thundered through the air. In the back row, unnoticed by most, a tall man in sunglasses watched quietly. When Amara's eyes briefly met his, recognition flickered, but he only smiled faintly, nodded once, and disappeared into the crowd. She didn't call out to him. She didn't need to. Some goodbyes don't require words. That night, Amara returned to Lagos, exhaustion settling over her like a soft blanket. She brewed tea, sat by her window, and watched the rain begin again. For the first time in her life she felt complete. Not because she was rich but because she was free. She whispered to herself, maybe pain was the price of purpose. Her phone buzzed once more. Messages flooding in from students, journalists, designers, all congratulating her. Among them was one last message and signed, but she knew who it was from. I watched you today. You were extraordinary. Keep rising. Amara smiled, closed her phone and whispered into the night, I already am. The screen fades out to soft music, the image of a sewing machine beside a glowing city skyline. Words appear slowly. True beauty isn't born from wealth, but from the courage to rise after being broken. No matter who mocks your beginning, never let their laughter define your ending. Dignity and kindness will always outshine wealth built on pride. Viewers, what lesson did you learn from Amara's journey? Do you believe people like Darius can truly change? Share your thoughts in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that no one can dim the light of a humble heart.